You're the first.
Awesome.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sherry Sutton, and I am your marketing mentor. How are you? I'm here today with Kristen. She is a fellow author and fearless leader of the book Journey to Myself, which just published today. Yay! It is a anthology. Is anthology the right word? It is
Sure.
It is a group of stories by 11 different women, myself included, talking about our transformational journeys. Whether, for me, it was through addiction. Other people had, abuse, or, one woman whose story I can't wait to read came home and found her fiance had committed suicide. So woof, talk about a transformational experience. So I'm going live today with a couple of the different authors just to kind of introduce you to the other amazing women that I've been hanging out with the last few weeks. And so wanted to start today with Kristen. Hi, Kristen.
Hi, Sherry. I think this is so crazy. I think this is the first time that we've spoken one-to-one. We've been on calls for like the last 6 weeks or something. But I realized as I was dialing in a little bit frantically, because it's been that kind of a day with the launch, that I think this is the first time that we've had an actual one-to-one conversation, and it's in front of all the people.
And it's live. Great. So
yeah.
It sort of doesn't count, but it sort of does. Because who knows, maybe no one will watch this and it'll just be you and me.
Well, I tell you what, I just went live in Women Helping Women Entrepreneurs, and there's over 500,000 people in that group. And yeah, that's a little scary, 500,000 people. And I think back to the days where I would have been absolutely petrified. Like something like this would have made me super nervous. This is really just talking to you, which is like super easy.
Right.
I remember this. But anyway, this is great. I'm so excited. I can't believe I'm the first person you're talking to. But
yay! Thank you. Well,
sure.
As I mentioned, you're not only an author, but you're you are the fearless leader of this project. You started this whole thing in motion. So tell me how that happens. Like, how did this idea come to you, and how'd you pick the authors? Me included.
Yes. Well, yes. Well, it's an interesting story. So earlier this year, I wrote down, so for a few years, I've kind of known, I've been on a big transformation myself and a big spiritual journey, and have overcome addictions and totally changed my life in the last few years. And I kept saying, I'm going to write a book one day. One day I'm going to write a book. And when I sat down at the beginning of this year to say, what do I want to manifest and what do I want this year to bring, I decided writing a book was one of them. And about 6 weeks after that, someone who I've known in the entrepreneur space for a while got in touch, and she said that she was doing a multi-author book and would I want to take part in it. And I went back and forth, and then I said, well, this is the opportunity. Like, when the universe gives you opportunities, it's not always exactly like you think it's going to be. And I thought, you know what, this is perfect. I love her. It's an amazing opportunity. So I decided to do it. I joined a little bit late, so I was a little bit rushed in getting my chapter done. And there were some opportunities in that, both throughout the process and also with the finished version, where it was a great experience in my own personal journey of writing the chapter, but I wanted more from it. And I was reflecting on kind of where I was. It's my mid-year review, where I was and what I'd achieved at the beginning. And I said, from what I'd said at the beginning, and I said, I did have that experience, but it wasn't everything that I wanted it to be. And so I thought, well, maybe I should find another one and do it again. And then I said, no, do it yourself. Like, why have somebody else do it? So it's funny though, when you say you're fearless leader, because no. I'm glad it looks like that on the outside, but it's the first time I've done a project like this. So I've used a lot of my corporate project management experience in helming it. There were a lot of things that I learned in going through doing this project, and things that I still just pinch myself about. Like, I mentioned the community that we've brought together. I am so grateful. And I know I say this to you guys in the calls that we do, like it's beyond my expectations. I never could have imagined that we would have built a depth of relationship, despite the fact that we've never met one-to-one before. But the sense of vulnerability and being able to share stories, and we've had tears on our calls, and everybody really pulling each other through and sharing their experiences is just that element of it is so beyond what I'd expected to get. And so for the fact that there's actually a product that goes along with it, this is like icing on the cake, so yeah, that was a big thing for me, that I learned about, the community and how we brought each other together. And just, like I said, I pinch myself every day, and I'm so grateful for your contribution and everybody else's contribution that we've built that. And then another thing I learned is not to wait to write my chapter until the very end.
Well, you were on the fence about it, right? You were like, I don't know if I want to put my story in or whatever. I need to shut the door, or the dog's going to come in here, because the garbage truck is coming in. You guys might not know this, but the garbage truck is coming to kill his parents. So it is a moment of great panic in our house. So keep talking.
Well, when I started the project, I knew that I was going to write a chapter. And then when I started having everyone else's chapters in, and then I thought, well, maybe I don't have to do it. And 10 is a nice even number, and we had 10 people. So the pressure kind of went away, and I was getting down to the end with our deadlines. And I thought, well, I don't have to do it. It's okay. We've got 10 people. Nobody's going to miss my story. Right. And then, unfortunately, one of the women who had signed on very early wasn't able to participate because of some personal experiences that were going on. And we had to make a tough decision that she wasn't going to be able to be included. And I just happened to be chatting to one of the other authors that day. And I was it was a Sunday afternoon. I was lazing in the hammock, and I just sort of picked up on a chat from her, and we were talking about it. And she said, well, do you want other people? And I was like, well, I thought about it a couple of days ago, but it's too tight and the deadlines are rough. Well, I might be able to, why don't we put it out to the group? And then I thought, you know what, Kristen, that's your fears getting in the way again. Like, of course, you can handle another week or 2 weeks. And I looked at the calendar. I'm like, I'm fine. I can do this. So I put it out. And then I said, you know what? And the other fear that's coming up is about writing my story next to everybody else's. I just got to do it. So I decided right there and then in the hammock, with double rainbows going on with the other author. She had double rainbows from her garden view. She was also sitting outside. And we just decided that it was the universe trying to tell me something, which was just get over it and do it. So that's when I finally made the decision that I was definitely in. Until then, I was in, then I was maybe not, and then I was back. And yeah. And that's a big learning. Write mine first. Because everybody else's are so powerful. And I know that was one of the things that, everybody's story in the book is so powerful. And that was one of the things that a lot of the girls were struggling with at the beginning was, is my story going to hold up? And there's all these powerhouse and incredible women. And we've got people from such a diverse background and, lots of different places in the world. Hannah's from Malta, so she's had really different experiences and, personalities are so different. And everybody was thinking, am I going to, do I deserve to be in this group, and that was a fear that hit for a lot of us, but definitely everybody's stories, and the trajectory and the transformation that people have been on definitely place them at a place where they deserve to be told, and it's the right time for their stories to be out.
Well, that's interesting because you're the only one who's read everybody's stories, right? None of us have. Maybe some people have, but I haven't read anyone else's stories. I'm not sure if anybody has. So it's interesting. I could see how that would probably have been intimidating, right? Getting all of, seeing all those and then writing yours and kind of knowing what else is in the book. Like for all of us, we're like, oh, here you go.
Yes.
Maybe mine will be the bad one. Maybe it won't be. Who knows?
Oh my God. I gotta sound at least as good as all of you. And they're all so incredibly powerful, and they're all told with such a unique and different voice that they all stand apart. You know, there's a few that have addiction issues, there's a few that have abuse issues of different types and elements, but they're all so very different that they blend together well and stand on their own. I like to think of it almost like a tapestry, like they're all just a different thread, and together it makes such a beautiful picture. But it was tough, right? Like, it was just, I think, because then it was like, okay, I have to be really conscious of how I write, because I can't have it sound like this, I can't have it sound like that, I can't have it sound like this one. And then I just thought, you know what, just write it, just sit down and write it and forget all of that. And when I did, it just came out. It was a hell of a lot easier than I had told myself for 4 weeks that it was going to be.
It's always how it is, though. It's always how it is. So how was this story? Was it different than the one you told in the other multi-author project that you did?
It is, yeah. So it's sort of, maybe it takes back a little bit further. It starts a little while ago, whereas the other one was a lot fresher and a little bit more recent. And there's definitely overlapping parts of it, but they're still different. They're different chapters. You know, different chapters in my life.
So do you see that there's more chapters to be written down the road for you?
I think so.
Maybe not in this format, but just, you know, it has this put sort of the bug in you to tell more of those stories, or are you like, I'm good?
It's done two things. One, I still have my outline for my book. So like my whole life story, like all of the chapters. And so I think I need to sit with this one for a little bit and let the dust settle. I very much feel like this is our project as opposed to my project. Like with the first one, I felt like it was my chapter out and it happened to have some pages in a book. Whereas I feel a lot more responsible for this one, maybe like a little mother hen, like making sure like it all works, as opposed to, it's just my story that's out. Okay, fine, done. But the community and the experience has given me the bug to have this continuing in some way. So I think the next step, ultimately at some point longer term, is writing the big book and the big project, and definitely bringing more of that in for me. But I'm loving this experience of multi-author projects and bringing groups of women together to go through. And I'm been starting to explore what that can look like, and doing retreats and getting people together for creative journeys. And so I think that's the next short term or midterm project, is more similar projects.
So yeah, good. Okay, so keep that in mind. Anybody out there who wants to tell your story, it sounds like there'll be some opportunities down the road. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your story?
Yeah, you mentioned that at the beginning. I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I'm ready for that part, but yeah.
Well, none of us have even told each other. Like, and I mentioned earlier, there was somebody who was saying that like their story was about their fiance. I think it was, they committed suicide and they came in, but I think that's the only person I really know what their story is about. Like, we kind of know, a little bit, but a lot of people, I don't know anything.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, my story. So ultimately, I used to live, so I left the States, and I don't go back this far in the book, but I left the States in 2000 with husband number one. And then I left, I was in London, and then I moved to Dubai. And it kind of tells about my decision when I was in Dubai that sparked all of the subsequent things that have happened. So I then was in marriage number two. Marriage number two went down the tube pretty darn quick. That's what happens when your partner has an affair 6 weeks after you get married. But it took me a really long time to come to grips with and really understand that that's what was going on, because I just didn't want to accept. And so I just realized I was done and I wanted to get out. But looking back, I wanted to get out. I wanted to get out of Dubai. I was supposed to be there for 2 years, and it was 9 years later. There was no reason for me to stay. I could go anywhere and do anything. But I wasn't necessarily making the best choices and best decisions in where I went, and I just wanted away. That was the only thing that I was really thinking about. But looking back on it, that moment, and the moment that I had a realization was the catalyst for everything else that has happened. Like that is the spark for me ultimately leaving my job in Malaysia and leaving my career that I'd been in, a really well-paid, high profile career with lots of responsibility that I loved elements of it. I loved the leadership part and the working with people, but totally stepping out of that and becoming a life coach, and then an entrepreneur. Now I bridge the business element that I did for 25 years along with the coaching and the mindset element. But yeah, I talk a lot about those moments being the catalyst, and how that brought on so much more change. It was, if that hadn't happened, I don't know when I would have stopped drinking. I don't know when I would have stopped smoking. I don't know when I would have found, a healthier lifestyle that prioritizes me. And so it talks a lot more about that catalyst moment and kind of the shit that I felt, the one moment, and then kind of the subsequent elements that came after it.
Oh, that's cool. I can't wait to read it.
Yeah.
I need to get a Kindle. I can download it on my phone. I know there's an app I can download. I'll probably do that later so I can read everybody's. I'm such a we were joking earlier that even though I'm a Gen X, I'm kind of a boomer in that I want paper. I like paper books.
Same. I hear you on that. I resisted a Kindle for such a long time, and I got it because I was traveling. I was backpacking, right. And so I was like, you can't carry books,
no.
And so yeah, and you can get books for $1.99 on Kindle. It's great, you get free books. So when I was setting up my business and no longer employed and staying in hostels with a backpack, that was really important. So I quickly changed my tune. But when it's a good book, sometimes, if you're reading a trashy beach novel, that's okay to have on the Kindle. But if it's a good book and you really want to get into it, it's that feel.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know you've ordered your copy, and author copies are on the way.
Yay.
It feels good. I got the draft copy, so that's why it's got the not for resale gray badge across the top. But I got it because I wanted to make sure that it felt good, like the size of it was good and all of that stuff. And it does. It feels good.
That's a cool.
I mean, you believe the page I opened happens to be yours. Yeah.
So do you want to tell them a little bit about why it's good to buy a Kindle version?
I would love to explain why it's good to buy the Kindle version.
You like how I did that segue? Is that nice?
Great segue. Awesome. So yeah,
let me cue it up for you.
So all of the sales from the Kindle version are being donated to an organization that works to support families of missing and murdered Indigenous women, and also to educate Indigenous girls on self-defense and what they should be mindful of culturally, and to help them be empowered. And they do a lot of outreach work with like I said, with the families of women who have been murdered or who are still missing. Unfortunately, especially in the States, this is not something that draws a lot of media attention. Yeah. The media is inundated with all sorts of things that aren't very pleasant at the moment. So I don't know where it would fit in those news stories, but it is not something that is common knowledge. And only a small fraction of the women who go missing or who are murdered are ever reported. And then those that are reported, I want to say it was about 5,000 in the space of a year that were reported to local authorities, but they never made it into the US crime database. It was only about 100 of those 5,000 that made it into the crime database. So there are anomalies in statistic reporting, and just the fact that they don't always get reported. And culturally, there's a big difference between law enforcement on a reservation and on, it's not native land, we're on the native land, and Western or, the US law enforcement, the official law enforcement, as it were. And there's not always a great correlation in how the crimes are investigated and what is picked up. So I feel like one of my, not I feel like, but one of my business values is that I give back to the cultures that support me. So when I was in Bali, we provided uniforms to girls so that they could go to school. When I was first here, I was working with an organization that provides Wi-Fi to girls in an underfunded community in Baltimore, which is my hometown. And working on this project, I wanted to bring something else in that works with Indigenous women, and found a really good friend of mine is a Native American. And so through conversation with her, felt really good about this organization and being able to give back. And I love that, each of my clients helps to do that. And that each of us, by sharing the Kindle proceeds, we're all supporting this community or this effort as well.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I think that's something that's common among, it seems like all the authors, like we all have that business value, right? Of like giving back. And I think that was just sort of, I don't even know if that's something you looked for when you were looking for authors, but it just seems to be something that is a theme among us.
Yeah, to be fair, it's not something that I looked for, but it is definitely something that attracted people. Pretty much everyone said, "Oh my God, I love that we are doing this," and so that made me feel good. But I think a lot of that is, the energy of what we put out is what we get back.
For sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
For sure. So tell us a little bit about your business. We've got a few more minutes, and this is the shameless self-promotion portion of the interview because, hey, why not? We're here. There's people. There's 5 people watching.
Awesome.
Hi, guys.
Hey, well, that's as many people as I have.
Oh, wait, there's comments.
Oh.
Somebody said this community is like no other. I don't know who you are. Someone on Facebook said that. Thank you. We agree.
That's the thing with StreamYard is you can't always see who's commenting, right? It's like
someone somewhere said something.
They're on.
So anyway, what do you do?
What do I do? Gosh, this is the part that I'm not so good at. Not what I do, I'm great at, but the self-promotion is like, it's not my area of expertise. I work with purpose-driven women. So I like to work with, my dream client is someone who wants to make the world a better place and go from ripple to revolution and change the world. And we do that through streamlining and identifying what is going to be most effective in her business and identifying a business strategy that's really aligned for her. As well as overcoming what the mindset blocks are in being able to be that successful entrepreneur. So there's a lot of mindset work, a lot of strategy that we simplify because it can look really confusing out there. And at the moment, I offer one-to-one coaching. I really enjoy the one-to-one element. I haven't expanded into group as yet, but maybe in future. But right now, it's all one-to-one. And I have an intensive program and a 3-month deep dive. And I'm looking at introducing a coaching mentorship that would work specifically with people who are coaches, because I coached in the business world for 20 years. And so helping people to build their actual coaching skills will be coming up. But right now it's all about getting really clear on your business mission and objectives, your dream client, what you offer, and then the confidence to sell it in a good way, not a slimy way.
Right. Because that's what comes up. I see that too, especially very, not necessarily spiritually centered, although they are spiritually centered, but, what I call mindful entrepreneurs, right? That I don't want to be sleazy. I don't want to come off that way. I don't want to be, I'm not, whoever, right? There's always some coach that they can compare themselves to. Like, I'm not her. I'm not that person. I'm not her. I'm not, and you don't need to be, right? But it's getting away from, how do I present myself in an authentic way that doesn't feel, because I don't want to be cheesy, but I also, if I'm not being cheesy, are people really going to be interested in what I have to say? And is that the cost of entry for being an entrepreneur? And I think getting over that piece sometimes is a really big hurdle.
Totally. Yeah. And I think so much of what people see because of what goes out is all of the beauty side, right? Like, oh, it's so great. Look, I had my first 5K month within 3 months of being a coach. And it's like, yeah, did you really though? So it can be real easy to see all of those things that are going on. And for newer people to be like, well, I don't get it. What am I doing wrong? You know, and there are so many bad examples of selling out there that it can be hard to see, you know, what does good look like and then to emulate that. So it can often be a really big disconnect between I want to be genuine. I know I can help people. A lot of times their dream client is who they were a year ago, you know, and they want to help people through the shit. They want to help people not feel like that. They want to be the person they wish they'd had. So what they've got to offer is incredible. It's just being able to put it forward in a way that feels genuine. You know, so many of my clients are like, I hate social media. I don't want to go on. One of my clients, I've met her in an introvert group. She's like, oh no, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't go live. I get really nervous posting stuff. I woke up this morning to a message from her and she said, hey, by the way, I just went live on Instagram. I was like, oh, hey, okay, great.
Good for her.
I know. She's like, yeah, now that I know what I'm selling and who my customer is, and after our call this week, I just thought I should just do it. And I was like, you know what? That's it. She's like, I just ripped the Band-Aid off and I went for it. And she's, you know, like, I didn't save it, right? I'm like, that's okay. That's all right.
I did it. I didn't put it out on the internet, but I did it. I love that.
Yeah.
Baby steps.
Exactly. I'm like, that's it. You did the hard part. You got over that hump. But yeah, that's the thing. And feeling genuine, you know, and getting over that fear is such a big thing.
Right.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, it's for sure.
Well, good. I'm glad we got to spend some time together today. I have interviews with two of our other authors, and one of our authors, I'm super excited. Her name's Tempress, which I love. Like, what an amazing name. And she's actually going to do a live tarot card reading for me. So I'm a little like, what happens if it's bad? She does this all the time. So I thought it would be kind of fun because that's part of what she does as well. And we've been talking about it. And so hopefully that'll be fun. So that'll be at 5:30. And then I also have another Ariane. How do you say her name? Ariane or Ariana? Ariane. So I'm meeting with her. We'll be live with her here in a few minutes. So thank you so much for joining me. And thank you so much for asking me to be part of this amazing, amazing project. I am honored. And let's everybody go buy the book. There's a link in the,
I said, your story is kick-ass. Like, everybody needs to read your story. It is brilliant. Yeah, and written so well. So good.
If you don't like swear words, especially a swear word that starts with an A, then you probably might not want to read it, but it's done in a very funny way. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited. I was thinking maybe I'll do a little like intro reading of it, but we'll see. I have to pull it back up. But anyway, thank you again so much. And there's a link to buy the book inside the description for this live. We hope that you buy it and you love it. And we appreciate you so much. Thanks for being part of the day. Bye.
Bye-bye.